Okay, so this is number 8, I believe, and in this lecture video, I want to talk about another couple classes of drugs. One of them is the psychedelics. The psychedelics are described as altering perception, so they might alter sound, vision, time, feeling, slow things down. If you ever heard people talking about tripping, tripping is often described as, like I've heard it described as like the floor breathes, or colors have sounds, or sounds have colors. You might hear the idea of a good trip versus a bad trip. Commonly, a good trip is one, or a bad trip is one where you experience fear. So, like a good trip might be that when the walls breathed, you thought it was funny instead of you were frightened. These kinds of things. So it's really just an overall distortion. It may be a distortion of the way your body feels, the way things taste. So I sort of have my philosophy on all of this stuff is I'm kind of the mind that I'm less fearful of things that grow out in nature as opposed to the things that we make. So if I were to look at, if I were personally to sort of evaluate like the good and the bad of drugs, I would be more frightened of pills, things that are made in a lab versus things that are made in nature. And this is just an image of 2 psychedelics that grow in nature. One of them is magic mushrooms. When I was teaching at Manhattan High, they told me that mushrooms and LSD were more available up there than were marijuana. I don't know. And sometimes these are smoked, sometimes they're made into a tea. I think commonly mushrooms are made into a tea. And then over here, way less common in this part of the country is peyote cactus. And peyote has commonly been used amongst indigenous peoples. And actually, mushrooms are often used in sort of religious and spiritual events too, because they alter your perception, right? Things like vision quests were thought to be stimulated by these psychedelics. A psychedelic that's way more common is marijuana. And again, in some books, it would be separate, and that's because under the umbrella of marijuana, you've got different strains. Different strains, is that the word? Species? That's not the word. But anyway, different, like you have cannabis sativa, indica, and rubellus. Rubellus is typically the one, ditchweed. It's typically the one that has been turned into hemp or maybe turned into paper. There are some historians who argue that the reason that marijuana is illegal is not because of its psychedelic purposes, but because the paper industry didn't want competition with, the lumber and paper didn't want competition with the hemp, because hemp is so much more sustainable and grows so much faster and needs less input. But probably they were talking about cannabis rubellus, not the other 2 kinds. Sativa is sometimes described as a lighter use. It's a day use. It has more cerebral, as opposed to indica, which, if you've ever heard of the phrase indica couch or couch lock, indica is the one that probably is the one you see on those comedy shows, in the comedy movies, the stoner comedy movies, where people are just like, yeah, man, that would be more indica, like indica couch. So different strains affect people differently depending upon. And then there's another group, where did I see it? I think it's on one of the slides. Cannabinoids, it's based on this word right here. It's based on the word cannabis. It's like cannabinoids, and I don't know much about that either, but that has to do with like the molecular structure of the cannabis. So it like takes out all of the high properties, and it gives you more of the the block the pain perception kind of properties. So some of the potentially health beneficial properties, but taking out some of those less than functional properties. Another one that I understand is more common today than it was when I was coming of age, and that is LSD. I can't say that word. This is the name of LSD. Sometimes, if you've ever heard Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, that song is actually referring to LSD. LSD was accidentally discovered by some Swiss chemist. The story goes he was doing something in the lab, and he'd gotten this thing on his hands, and he was riding his bicycle home, and he started to hallucinate. And that was sort of where the discovery of LSD came from. It's typically like you find it on these tabs, and it's like an oil that's or an acid that's dropped on these tabs. LSD is thought to have a very long life, a very long experience, and that experience can be very intense. So we would probably put LSD in the category of not addictive, not physiologically addictive, because it's long and intense. Then we have another group of drugs that are called designer or club drugs. We call these designer partly because they're compounds, and they're compounds of like two different kinds of drugs. Typically, your compounder or like the maker, the manufacturer, would have like a stamp, and that's why we see this image here. They might have a little image on it or like a color. But some of them, like MDMA, ecstasy, Molly, these work by combining a stimulant with a psychedelic. So they give you energy. They may also be combined. They give you energy. They have implications for your serotonin. You'll remember serotonin's mood. So they, we might call them, what we used to call them, party drugs, right? So you have lots of energy. You feel really good. You stay up all night and you dance and these kinds of things. Again, these are pills, and so I'm always a little bit, okay. Then another group or another phenomena is PCP, angel dust. These also, you can't really see it. It's unfortunate you can't see it in this slide. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better over here. Because the way I have my thing set up, you can't really read it. But what it does is the difference between PCP and LSD, and it tells you how you take PCP. You inhale it, you smoke it, you snort it, you inject it. LSD is typically on tablets or it's in liquid forms. PCP, what does it say, long-term effects. You can have persistent problems with speech, flashbacks, psychosis, depression. So PCP or angel dust, it has implications for your dopamine. Dopamine is a reward, so you're going to want to do it again. This feeling of detachment, which we'd call that kind of trippy, like you might not want to feel like you're detached from your body. Trips can be long. Sometimes they have implications, or people might have suicidal or violent tendencies. That just doesn't sound like fun to me. I don't know about you, but this kind of tripping just doesn't sound like very, very much fun. So, like I mentioned in a previous lecture, like what kind of experience sounds the most appealing to you? And I'm a depressant girl. Like, of all of those, like experiencing hallucinations versus having lots of energy versus being really chill, it's the really chill that sounds more pleasant to me. I do have some friends that really like the stimulant, and then I have other friends that talk about they like the trip, but I really just want to kind of chill out. So that would be what would be more appealing to me. I really have one more. I'm just going to talk all the way through. I've got two more slides, but these are really important slides. And this is the topic of, actually, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because I actually have three more slides, and I want to be able to talk about those without feeling rushed. So I'm going to stop right here.